Welcome back. This review is on The Brutalist, which was a late 2024 release directed by Brady Corbet, starring Adrien, Brody, Guy Pearce, and Felicity Jones. There's a lot you can say about this movie. No pun intended, in a lot of ways this was a brutal film. In the drama and a lot of the issues that are depicted, it's showing the situation of post-war Jewish immigrants, what they faced in America. It's dealing with themes like drug use, drug addiction, and sexual assault. This movie had a 3.5-hour runtime. You may have heard about that. This movie was so long, they wanted to put a formal old-fashioned intermission right in the middle of the movie, which I actually really liked. I thought that was a great touch. This movie is centered around Adrien Brody's main character, Laszlo Toth, who is a Hungarian Jewish immigrant. He's immigrating to the United States. After the war, he was forcibly separated from his wife, Corbet, played by Felicity Jones, and he was a renowned architect overseas, and you don't really know that right away, but you're seeing him come to the States. He's very much struggling, but he tries to work in a furniture shop with his brother. And through that, they end up doing a job at this very rich person's house, who's Harrison Van Buren, played by Guy Pearce. And through that connection, they end up getting reacquainted at a later date. Harrison finds out who Laszlo is and that he was this very skilled, renowned, lauded architect overseas. And he wants him to come to his house and ends up hiring him, allowing him to live in his manor to do this huge community center development in honor of his late mother. And that's really what the main plot of the movie is centered around. It's Laszlo beginning the designs and working there, trying to get his bearings in America. You see a lot of the things he's dealing with personally in his life as a Jewish immigrant, and then also trying to get his wife, Corbet, back to the States. He's struggling with things overseas, and they're writing to each other. There's a lot of narration from their letters to each other, which I've really liked, having that dispersed throughout the movie. But that is really what this movie is about at its core. But there's a lot of serious themes and things in this movie that really make you see what it really was like for a lot of people who were immigrating here, and especially people who were like Laszlo in this movie. They were Holocaust survivors, and they came here and they wanted a piece of the American dream. There's certainly people like Guy Pearce's character who were there to take advantage of that in a lot of different ways, and that's really what this movie is showing at its core. There's so much I can say about the performances in this movie, primarily from the three main stars. Felicity Jones as Laszlo's wife, absolutely incredible. The strength that she put into this performance was phenomenal, and I really can't stress that enough. Adrien Brody, always amazing. The emotion that he injects into his characters from the writing, from his own performance, from just his physical performance, his face, the way that he speaks. He does drama just really like no one else. And his performance in this is absolutely incredible. He ends up becoming a heroin user, and you see him struggle with drug use. That's something that ends up even affecting the relationship with his wife. I want to talk about the tunnel scene. There's a scene where Harrison, Guy Pearce's character, and Laszlo are overseas, and they went there to pick out this big marble slab that they're going to use for the altar in the church section of this big community center. And after that, you have this little party. They're mingling with some locals. You haven't seen anything too evil about Harrison Van Buren yet, but Adrien Brody's character is like kind of very drunk. He's stumbling. Harrison kind of knows that he's not all there. He goes find him in a tunnel, and then all of a sudden you're really seeing the true colors of this character come out, Harrison Van Buren. You're seeing that this is not this, empathetic champion of the people guy who he portrays himself to be. This is not somebody who is this, strong Christian person. He's very much the opposite. And it really shows about the hypocrisy around just so many people like that, the way that they're portrayed in the world, and the way that they try to use money and use status to cover up who they really are. But behind closed doors, the very few people who maybe really know them, what they see is a very different picture. And that is a piece that this movie touches on. And you see that all come to a culmination. The scene that was pretty difficult to watch for a lot of people. And Harrison is talking about how all of a sudden he's looking down on the Jewish people. He's saying things like, oh, you guys come here, this is all your fault. You make yourselves such an easy target. What do you expect? Like, what do you expect people to not take advantage of you? That's what he's saying. And in that scene, he essentially sexually assaults him, and he rapes him, in the tunnel while no one is around. And honestly, you're really just kind of sitting there like, the way that makes you feel is just very uncomfortable, to say the least. But it's because of how that represents, I think, so much else. Just this film and things in the world, but just at its core, it's just human evil and someone taking advantage of their power dynamic from someone who they know is not really going to do anything about it. They can't really do anything, and they don't have the means to pursue anything legally. Guy Pearce, his performance and his turn and just the nuance he puts into this performance as this main character and this guy who you end up seeing as the villain was a very strong performance. I would absolutely see this movie winning a lot of different awards. I believe it's already had over 7 different nominations. Performances were absolutely incredible. I really thought the pacing of this movie was extremely well done. For being a 3-hour, 35-minute runtime, it did not feel too long. I did not feel bored in this movie. Every scene really held my attention. I thought the pacing and just the way that the plot flowed was very good. The movie is basically broken up into 2 parts. And it has part 1, it starts off, you see right when Laszlo is coming over to the US, he sees the Statue of Liberty. You have maybe the first little bit under 2 hours or so. And then there's a 15-minute formal intermission. And it shows this screen, and there's even a timer for your convenience. And it gives you a perfect amount of time to get up. You can go to the bathroom, you can go get popcorn, and you can kind of walk around and stretch. That's exactly what I did. I loved it. I honestly thought that fit in perfectly. The way that it flowed and faded back into part 2 was perfect. And it didn't feel like there was any disconnect there at all. So I would really like to see more intermissions done like that in a lot of other modern movies, regardless of the runtime, but really maybe anything that's approaching 2.5 hours plus. I think it would be great. Throw an intermission in there, even 5 minutes. That's really plenty of time just to get up and break things up a little bit for people that, may not like sitting through a longer movie and stuff like Avatar that's 3 hours plus. That's a big ask for a lot of people who may not get to go to the theater that often or don't want to sit in the theater for 3.5 hours with trailers and everything like that. One of the other big pillars of this movie that I haven't touched on yet really is just a massive love letter and appreciation to architecture. And I really like that. I've always been really interested in seeing different cultural influences in architecture. You compare certain things in the West, certain things in Europe. I really like modern and classical Asian and Japanese architecture. And I really like seeing how cultural themes and just different cultures influence the architecture of a particular region or area. And you see Laszlo coming as he's a Jewish Hungarian immigrant, and he's this really skilled architect. His buildings are very unique. They have this modern impressionist design. I don't know exactly what you would call it, but you see that. And the movie has this beautiful epilogue where his wife has passed away, and his daughter and granddaughter are there, and they're giving a tribute while Laszlo is pretty unhealthy. He's in a wheelchair. He seems like he can almost not really speak, but he's accomplished all of these beautiful works over his long career now, and they're kind of giving this award ceremony to him. And that's the way that the movie ends, and I thought that was beautiful. And it's kind of coming full circle with all the characters. You see what he went through. You see that he was able to get away, come to the US. His wife was able to still be there with him. They made it. He went through some horrible things. He was taken advantage of. But despite that, he still was so successful. And that's why I really like the way this movie ended, is it still shows that despite his hardship and despite what he was dealt with, despite escaping from the Holocaust, he came to America and he was able to live his dream, and he ended up being very successful doing what he loves. And that's the way that the movie ended. And I really like that. I thought that the way that they send off this long film was honestly nothing short of perfect. In conclusion, if you like any of these actors, if you want to see a very strong, powerful, at times intense drama, go see this movie. You can see it at home. You can watch it on streaming. It is still in theaters, but absolutely would recommend watching this movie. I think it's a movie that everyone really can see, and maybe it will show you some different perspectives to things in life that you don't always think about. That's going to do it for today. What did you think of this movie? Have you seen it? Stay tuned for more. Thanks.